Hey, alright, this is my fifth take for this video because I managed to just stumble on words and stutter and make a complete mess of everything 4 times before. So this take will be the last one, no matter how I screw this up. Hello and welcome. I have just arrived in Hong Kong to another hotel. Clean place, reasonably priced. I'm taking a pit stop here before traveling onwards. I've been here before, about 7 years ago, and it's really cool getting to revisit a place that I didn't expect to ever revisit. And speaking of revisiting places, let's go back to Seven Cities. So today I'll give you my random thoughts on my reread of House of Chains, book 4 of the Malazan Book of the Fallen. And this is a weird one for me. First time I read it, I kind of enjoyed it quite a bit as I read it, and then the whole climax of the story came along and was a bit frustrating, to say the least. Now, in the fan fiction version of events that sometimes play out in my head, Felicin really gets to confront Tavor, and Tavor get to realize what she's done, whatever good that would have done, which I guess is Ericsson's point of this entire book. Anyway, after some time, when I was through with this series, I ended up ranking this as my least favorite of the entire series. So that's where I was at when I was going into this a second time around. So, upon a reread, how did it land this time? Well, one night after having wrestled the kids to sleep, I sat down on the couch and I read a chapter from the book, and at one point I looked up and I said to my wife, who were sitting on the other couch watching Netflix, and I said, you know what? This may be the weakest book in the series, but it's so damn good. And yeah, this book really hit home this time. I have a hard time imagining it will be at the bottom of my Malazan rankings when the reread is finished. And I guess a lot of this video will be me trying to figure out why that is, why it has risen so much in my regard from the first time. Now, I said this before in these videos. An important part to this is knowing where the story is going, not only in the book but also over the entire series, and knowing there will be no satisfactory resolution, at least not in the traditional sense, to the story of the Paran sisters. Knowing that going in made me able to focus on the build-up and on the characters and how it all was portrayed in the book. And of course, I get to focus a bit more on the side stories as well. But I hope Karsa doesn't hear this. Yeah, for yet another book, Felicin steals the show, just as in Deadhouse Gates. But let's back up for a moment. Let's talk about the Tabler in the room, the Toblakai in the China store. It is interesting going back, knowing Karsa's character arc, to watch the conflicts between him and his father and his grandfather. I love that dynamic. I love how Karsa, this manly man with a huge stone sword, he's striving for glory, and he was completely caught by surprise by everything that was going on between him and his between his best friend and his love interest. And it also helped knowing going in that in Karsa speak, children means children in the puny humans sense of the word, rather than humans of a young age. Want to mention that Torvald Nam, of course, shows up, and he's a great character, but there isn't much to discuss regarding him yet. But I have a sneaking suspicion I'll have more to say about him when we get to Tell the Hounds. Heboric, going increasingly insane. His weird vision of a spacefaring, spirit-filled jade statue makes a bit more sense now. Not that spacefaring, spirit-filled jade statues makes much sense at all, but there you go. Cutter and Apsalar. Not my favorite part of the book. They encounter Anomander's brother, I think, and some stranded sailors, including Traveler, whose identity is known to us rereaders. which of course made the interaction between him and, is it Cotillion, right, that shows up? Yeah, it's Cotillion. The interaction between Traveler and Cotillion carries so much more weight when you know for sure Traveler's true identity. And they get attacked by the Teist Eater, and yeah, I didn't find it very interesting. And I have a hard time with the whole throne situation. So the first throne can rule the Imas, and the original Throne of Shadow, which decides to rule Kural Emerlin. And both are thrones with different functions, but also hidden in the real world as opposed to existing in the Warrens. And you just have to sit on them to be able to control whatever it is the throne. I don't know. Oh, too much. Didn't really care for it. Still don't get why Crocus / Cutter and Apsalar was sent there in the first place. I don't remember really. Not invested in those storylines, though I know that Apsalar for me will become a very stronger and more interesting character as her arc takes a new turn in The Bone Hunters, which is a book I'm currently reading. Well, maybe she is getting a bit interesting, because I really like her conversations with the Cotillion in this book, and now Cotillion is doing what he can to redeem his actions while not really being willing to set her completely free. Another huge plotline, of course, deals with Troll and Onrak. Very confusing on a first read, made much more sense now. Troll, not a favorite character. Having Onrak around makes the storyline much more enjoyable. Don't know how you're supposed to follow along in everything that happens in the Warren, in the Shattered Warren. And we have Onrak releasing one of the Daragoth, or was it a Hound of Shadow? Is that made clear? And the whole thing when they meet all these Imas and they start jumping through portals and hoops to get away, and yeah, I didn't follow it. Yeah, I had a hard time. I struggled a bit. Korab. Wow, Korab. When Korab showed up in House of Chains in the first read, I didn't pay attention, because how was I supposed to know what an amazing character he would become? I love his drug-infused interactions and his one-sided bromance with Leomund. Also knowing now that for some reason he's been blessed by the Lady Opon also makes for a lot of comedic moments as he just stumbles his way through battles in just the right manner to just barely survive time and time again. It's awesome. Lorik. What is his deal? What is he up to? Why has he? I mean, he seems like a decent bloke, a bit high-strung maybe, but why has he joined up with a Whirlwind? I don't know. He seems to have some daddy issues though. All right, but in the end, this is the story, the tragedy of Felicen. I love her arc, her struggles, her vulnerability, insecurities, her I'm trying to say trajectory. Let's say story arc. That's easier to say. Her story arc that in hindsight never could end well. I mean, if you have friends like Bidethal and Leomund who need enemies, she would never have been able to hold that alliance together, whatever would have happened. And once again, she's being used by warlords, by a vengeful, not very sane goddess. There's this great scene when she visits, what's his name? I'm blanking. Was it Lorik? No, it wasn't. I'm thinking of the scene when, for a few moments, due to some magical interference, the goddess's influence is blocked out and her mind is starting to come back. And then as she leaves, she's immediately taken over again. It was really, really sad. And this time, though, it's almost as if she's let go and is letting herself be used to get her revenge. If it is revenge, is it revenge? Is that what she's after, really? Or is it just a basic need to be heard and seen, to have her trauma acknowledged? I think Felicen's true motivations kind of finally show when she meet her demise on the sword of her unknowing sister, and with that last thought directed at her sister, why didn't you love me? I think that says it all, really, in the end. And as a rereader, I know that Tabor did love her sister. Maybe she wasn't very good at showing it, or maybe it just maybe she is cold iron, at her heart. And on that uplifting note, this video is coming to an end. So as I've tried to explain, this book really hit me hard this time around. Yeah, so good one. Really great stuff. And up next, in the next video, the book that was on the very top of my personal Malazan ranking the first time. Did that one hold up? I'll tell you in a bit, after I kill that mule.